Okay, here we go. We're live now. Everybody, welcome to In the Game, Qatar's first sports podcast. Today, unbelievable guest we got on the show. Unbelievable. And I'm so glad on a Saturday, Troy, that you've managed to find us time to come in and share with us. Everybody, this is Troy Townsend for everybody. Please, Troy, can you introduce yourself?
First of all, absolute pleasure, and thank you for having me on, Steve. Just a quick introduction. So I work for English football's Equality and Inclusion campaign, Kick It Out, predominantly fighting the good fight against racism, but obviously all other forms of discrimination as well. Obviously, in this period of time, it's becoming more of an increased battle and increased challenge, but it's one that obviously we stand up and really try and be at the forefront of change. And obviously, we'll speak about that a little bit later. So yeah, I mean, a man that has been in football for forever and a day, to be totally honest, whether it's through the coaching environment, non-league manager, setting up my own academy environment, and then being at Kick It Out for the last 9 years. So I've had a bit of a journey. No doubt we'll unravel that a little bit here, but yeah, really pleased to be talking to your listeners and viewers.
Where does your story begin? It's like I know that your friend Gerard Lammy
Yeah.
introduced you. So where
Yeah.
does your story begin? What was it? What was it for you? Can you remember when you started getting involved in sport? At what age?
It was as young as I can remember. It was loving the game, loving the ball, appreciating the ball, and then having that desire to want to be a professional footballer. I wanted it to be my career, and my whole life from, well, 5, 4 was just about football. It was, we didn't have much at home. There wasn't any great prospects of me being any kind of superstar in any other way. And I always thought that football was the channel that I would go down. But from a playing perspective, to be honest, and I was lauded as a youngster. I was appreciated as a youngster. I had all the comments about how I would make it as a youngster. And then suffered two. I was released twice, once from Millwall, once by Crystal Palace, and the story takes a dark turn then because I fell out of love with the game for a little while, and I also suffered mentally a little bit from it for a good period of time. Started going around with the wrong people just so that I could feel a little bit of love and warmth, to be honest. I mean, they were friends, but they were friends that were up to no good, and it kind of guides your life. You can either go one route or another route. And someone said to me the other day, we shouldn't only think that we should be either footballers or drug dealers. But I resonate with the people that say there are only two choices in their life, because at the time it did seem like that. And when you're rejected from football, you feel worthless. You feel like you have no value, and you just, I don't know, it's quite a, particularly back in those days, a situation that leaves you empty, and I didn't have the support system in terms of my family and the people around me to guide me back up and believe about my, in my dreams that I could play professionally. So the dream ended very early. But again, football was the thing that dragged me out of the mire as such. And I started coaching. I took my first coaching badge as a 19-year-old, and then started believing that young people were listening to my voice from a coaching aspect, and I kind of knew the game, and also knew that a lot of the people under me were also in a similar situation to me in terms of lack of parental support, and people questioning their ability when their ability is the one that takes them, to the platform, and then you start getting judged on that. So, in a short answer to your question, Steve, it's been from as far as back as I can remember, and I've always loved the game. From a playing perspective, and then you get the downsides, but you always believe that you can kind of achieve in the game. So it's funny how it's worked out that I've come almost full circle, and now in a sense in a administrative position within football.
Uh, what has made you, and who influenced you at those times? What were the biggest influences? And you look back on and you go, "Oh my God, those were the changes. Those were the changes in my life."
Absolutely no one. I didn't have a role model. My role models were the people that I saw on my TV screen. The Cyril Regises, the Laurie Cunninghams, people like that. They were the people that were my role models. but they were as far away from me as possible. You know, at that stage, you looked at footballers and thought you'd never be able to touch them or get near them. I suppose being threatened, my life being threatened, was the thing that changed me. Someone threatening to glass me, someone threatening to shoot me, was probably the thing that changed my life around. You know, it's because really and truthfully, if I'd stayed on that route, I wouldn't be here talking to you now. So it's not a role model as such. It's a period of time where I kind of had to get out for my own good, you know, and for my own sake. And luckily I did that.
And with those things, I know that, especially with your son, you've now become that role model. You've probably now looking at it in a totally different way. So when you got into the coaching, you were able to start your journey, right? So how did that feel?
You know what? It's a wonderful thing to give back. I'm not even sure I can describe the feeling as much as what I should do or give it justice, but it is just an absolutely wonderful feeling to give back to young people. I see a lot of myself in the young people that I was coaching at the time. And when I say young people, we're talking about 9, 10s, 11-year-olds when I first started my coaching journey. And it brings me a massive sense of pride as well, you know, that I can influence their lives, that I can help them with the difficult times, because we're not just coaches. If you're fully invested in this, we're not just coaches. You know, so many young players have said, you know, my father doesn't talk to me in a way that you do, or appreciate me, or my dad is not around, you know, or I've got difficulties at home and I've got no one to speak to. And it's not a burden. It's a massive responsibility for a coach, but it's a responsibility that, I'll be honest, I absolutely loved. And I loved helping people believe in their dreams or achieve things where other people were putting them down, because I resonated so much with that. So, you know, my coaching and development of my own football academies was not just football, was just a drop in the ocean to everything else that that was happening in the environment. And I'm so proud to say that from my first academy, or from both my academies, I set up 2 academies. The players still talk to each other now, and they're in their mid-30s, you know, and they're godparents and they're best men, and they're, you know, it's just it's beautiful to see. And when we do finally catch up, which is not very often, you know, we'll go for a drink, and I do feel like the proud parent that's, you know, got all his children in front of him, you know, and because I played a massive part in their journey, you know, as human beings. And that's not just me saying that, that's the messages that I've got from them in the past, you know.
Hey, listen, you wouldn't be doing the job now if you didn't care. If the job that you do now, if you didn't care, you wouldn't be ideal for it. It just wouldn't. It wouldn't fit. I like the way, again, the one thing with Gerald last week, what an incredible young man that's come a bit like yourself. The story, he did have people around him, and I'm sure there was people like yourself that was there that helped the likes of when he had his tough times, and he was laying in his hospital bed and said, "I've got to do something with my life." And for him to then all of a turn it around and turn something into his life, that he's the head coach at Juventus Academy in Oman, it's just unbelievable. And that's what you're doing.
Did he tell you the story though, Steve, that I released him as a footballer? Did he tell you that?
No. Come on, tell us.
Well, I joined Leighton Football Club, which is a semi-professional football club here in England. And I was the under-18s coach. So I'd done my academies, and they kind of identified that they wanted me to develop their youth system. And they had a youth system in place. So I basically brought all my players over from my academy into theirs. And we had a in-house game, you know, so my team basically against their team. And it really was to see who on their team could actually match up to my squad so that I could bring them in, because the chairman said, you know, I still want to keep the players that we had from last year. I think I kept about 2. And I mean, I'm bigging myself up a bit here. My team was of such a quality and had basically won so much over the 10 years that we were together, that moving into this environment, you had to be some player to even register on the Richter scale almost. So, and Gerald didn't make the cut, which he keeps reminding me of on a number of occasions. You know, you released me, you did, you know, but I think he's, you know, we've remained friends. Obviously, we lost touch for a while, but we've remained friends, and I've been supportive towards his journey as well, you know. And he's an incredible young man. you know, and just knowing what he's been through and how he's come through the other side. Like I said, I resonate so much with him and others like him, because they are inspirations to me as well.
And they are such an inspiration. And I think that's the biggest reason why we've got this podcast. Everybody, when we say we're Qatar's first sports podcast, yeah, we're not bringing news. We're bringing stories of individuals that are doing everything they can to just try to break through so that they can come on and tell their story and to inspire others, because these stories are so important that we do try to put those out there so that we can help others, because that's the only way that we're going to progress, right?
Exactly.
So I'm really proud of what we're doing, because we're helping others. We're doing our
Brilliant.
And to get people like you on the show and to give your experience is brilliant. I just this morning I went through your Twitter account because I just wanted to do some research. I'm new at this. Somebody looked up to me and said, "Would you like to do a podcast?" And it was like a year ago now, and I'm like, really, a podcast? Like, well, yeah, let's have a go. So, and I don't do any research. Normally with guests, I don't do any research because I want to know their story. But you was a little bit different because I didn't want to make any stupid mistakes. So I took a look. I want to come up to your profile, okay? And it says, how big was Steve Brown in your life? And who is Steve Brown?
Wow. Steve, we're business partners. So we had 15 years developing our own sports development company called Ultimate Sports. We changed our name to Supreme Sports after that. He's an ex-professional footballer. Listen, I've got a brother. We don't have a very good relationship, and Steve was that person. He was the person that stepped in and up to that mantle. I listen, when we started our business together, because our wives know each other, I kind of said to him, I didn't used to like you, because we used to play football together, or against each other, never together. And he was the classic silky winger, you know, with all the tricks, I used to take the mick out of the defenders, and every time we played together, it would get a little bit heated against each other. It'd get a little bit heated because the defenders on my team just wanted to boot him up in the air, you know, and half the time they couldn't get near him. So he was a little bit of a cheeky so-and-so, you know, and it came across in his football, but absolutely unbelievable human being. So we joined forces in the local area in London. We covered, I don't know, about 6-7 boroughs, and providing sports provision, you know, to young people, you know, giving them the opportunity, no matter what sport it was, to dream big, you know. And we had that same vision and same goal about helping young people. At the same time, we were both non-league football managers. So it's funny how the kind of journey was very similar. We were both non-league football managers. So he was manager at Slough. I got into the non-league game at Cheshunt. And, you know, we work more than 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And then we're looking for each other's results on a Saturday, you know, making sure that he'd done well and I'd done well. And that was, listen, we were as close as any partnership people can ever be. I cannot tell you how close were, to the point where, you know, both our missus would say, you've got the same characteristics, you got the same mannerisms, you do things and say things exactly the same. And sometimes that can be a clash, you know, but it just absolutely wasn't. Listen, we had our fallouts, as you would do, but we knew how to overcome them. And I think just because our vision was so in line, he was the person, I'm going to be honest, he was the person that I've been looking for. So when you spoke about role models to start with, Steve, he was the person that I was looking for so often. Tragedy struck both of us, and that's probably the thing that made us even more closer together. I lost my son at 18. He came to play. He got released from AFC Wimbledon. It was a league football team here, and we were on our way to a game. He was playing for me at non-league level. It was snowing. The car lost control, and he was the only one out of 4 that lost his life. And honestly, without Steve, I know I've said this before, but without Steve at that period, again, you know, I was suicidal. I wanted to give up the football. I didn't want to be around people, and Steve did absolutely everything for me, you know, and he just, I can't say enough words for what he did at that period of time and how he dragged me out of the situation that I was in mentally, and how my heart was absolutely broken. And he was everything. He literally was everything, to the funeral, to just nights where he'd say, come on, let's go for a drive and for fresh air and just some, thinking space, and the business, kept the business afloat. And honestly, Steve, I can't tell you enough about the guy, and I don't think I do him enough plaudits. Cut a long story short, because it is a long story, he lost his brother, his dad, who was such an inspiration to him. And so the feelings of support were replicated, although I found it very difficult, because then any loved one that was lost to someone, it took me back into a space that was very, very dark, and unfortunately he lost his life 3 years ago, through cancer. And this funny, like, charismatic, beautiful looking individual was no more. He was gone. He's not gone in spirit, but he was gone in terms of, visibly being able to see him. He was the person that during these times when life was tough at Kick It Out, again, he was my inspiration, because I left the business in the end, started working for Kick It Out, had some really, really tough days, no doubt we'll speak about them, but he would ring me up and just be Steve, and it would take all of the crap away. He could speak for England, but he had the driest amount of jokes. His banter was awful, but it was brilliant. It took me out of whatever I was in. So, his passing on New Year's Day was again something that really, really affected me, and something that I had to get counselling for. I never had counselling when I lost my son Kurt, but I had to get counselling for Steve, although it didn't go very well and it brought up too many memories, but at least I tried, But honestly, in a nutshell, man to man, he was everything to me, and I'd like to think that I was everything to him as well.
Troy, I'm kind of, and again, I'm sorry if I brought something up there, but I'm glad you shared that with us. It's kind of, it's humbling that you shared it with. I lost my youngest sister in a car accident, and for me, I understand exactly how you deal with it, because I don't think she's with me in spirit. I think she's in Australia, to be quite honest with you. It's the way I put it into a different way. Is it? She's not there. She's not there. She's with us. So that's how I do. Thanks, honestly. Thanks for sharing that with us. I'm going to take you on now, because it's kind of what happened with how you went to Kick It Out. How did that all come into your area? How did that all evolve? Who knocked your door?
No one knocked my door. To be honest with you, I'll end my previous journey, having been at a particular school for 6 years and helped develop that school from a non-participating sporting team to champions right across the board: football, cricket, athletics, basketball, you name it. We'd gone from a joke school, by the time I arrived, a school with no identity, no kit, young people who just turned up to PE with jeans on, to a school that got a new kit, that had a badge, that had a logo, had identity, and the young people felt proud. And I have to respect my head teacher at the time was the one that helped me flourish in that. Anything that I wanted to turn that school around, he gave me, because sport has a wonderful thing for young people, and it could make them grow in confidence, and you feel them grow, so belief is unbelievable. He left, another head teacher came in. Sport PE was not the focus. It was getting too much prominence. It was helping, the way I see it, and I don't care what people say, it was helping young people too much. I couldn't understand that. And one of the things she said to me was, I'm going to stop the PE sessions because the young children need to learn to read and write. And they were 9 and 10 years old. And I was saying, well, if they can't read and write now, you better let them have sport, because it will be the thing that escalates them to a platform, But so although we still had the business, I left the school. Well, I was forced out of the school, between me and you and your listeners. And I was just in a period where I could go into another school and work because of the business allowed me to, but it also dented my appetite for it as well. I think, I'd had a journey. what I'd like to class as well, people tell me a successful journey, and the way it ended dented my appetite. So although the business was still running, I was going into schools, one school there, and not enjoying it. And it had nothing to do with the children, by the way. It was just my confidence had been dented. And this is what I mean about confidence. Your confidence is dented by an individual who wants to be apparently the bigger person, wants to be the one that douses your flame and stuff like that. So I volunteered for Kick It Out. So I went to an event. We used to have a David Beckham Academy here in London, and they were hosting an event there, and it was a coaching event. And obviously I'm a coach as well. So I thought, I'll go along. I've never really done things like that before. And Michael Emanalo, the ex-Chelsea technical director, was there, and we struck up a conversation and was talking about my coaching journey. And then all of a sudden I thought, I can influence people in a different way now. It wasn't just about the influence of young people within an educational environment, but maybe through sport. So I went away from there a little bit, I was a little bit, felt good about myself, which was the first time for a while. And then an opportunity came up to volunteer. They Kick It Out sent me an email, volunteer. I filled it out, didn't really expect anything. Bam, get an interview to volunteer. And I was into my 40s. And I went and volunteered. I didn't tell them much about my background, who I was, the father of, and stuff like that. I just wanted to impress on them that I was a hard worker. I knew football. I have certain characteristics that would help benefit the organization. I love mentoring, and I love support, and I love education. So 3 months of a non-paying role, which obviously can be quite tough, turned into 8 months of a non-paying role because I was doing so much, and they kind of realized the quality of my work without having to pay, so I was doing that. And then I approached the boss and just said, I can't do this no more. I can't work unpaid. It's 8 months. And luckily the person who I was helping on the mentoring side of what Kick It Out do, a guy called Earl Barrett, who's an ex-England international and used to play for Manchester City, he always wanted to get a coaching role, and he finally got one at Stoke City, and he left literally the day after, or announced he was leaving. Literally the day after, I said to the boss, I can't do this no more. So I don't know, someone was looking after me. Someone was, and when I say someone, Steve, you know what I mean. Someone was looking after me to make the shout that I did at that period of time, for Earl to be handed a job at that period of time, for the trustees of the board to say, actually, Troy has been doing this work. It's got to be easy just to elevate him into a full-time position. So it was by accident, but it wasn't by accident if you believe in other things, and I don't think I've ever believed in other things, but I've been pretty blessed, out of adversity. So I'm going to say that someone was looking over me. Someone believed that this was a right position for me. And I was going to give it my best shot. And I've been there 9 years now, nearly 9 years. Yeah, I've tried to give it my best shot at every possible moment. There's been obviously difficult periods, but yeah, that was my entry into the organization.
We talk about this person that was looking after you. He's probably sitting back in his chair right now thinking, see, I had a good, I knew what was going to come.
Steve, honestly, I would never have believed that before. Not spiritual, I used to go to church, but football took over. But honestly, I hear what you're saying, and I really do believe that now. And it's quirky and it's mad, and people may think I'm crazy, but I honestly feel that I've got a son, on my right-hand side because he was right-footed, and I've got my best mate on my left-hand side because he didn't care what foot he used. So, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, brilliant. And to this, because we did mention it briefly before you come on the show, we're talking about Kick It Out. That's just taken a whole new. You've been working so hard, and it's without a shadow of a doubt. And as you said, you came to it relatively, I won't say late, 40 years old, but then you threw your 40 plus. Okay, and then
say no more.
Then you threw your whole self into it, and now look at what it's not a thank. Sometimes it's a thankless job what you're doing. But you're making a difference with so many different people. What do you have to go through on a daily basis?
When people say it's a passion, first of all, it's not a passion. Racism and discrimination is not a passion. I've been hurt by it. I've been victimized by it. I've been demeaned by it. I've been, dehumanized. I've had the questions about the color of my skin. That's not passion. To challenge that is not passion. To challenge that is my right. And I have a platform now that allows me that right. On more days than not, I deliver the education into the English Football's academy environment. So that's under 9s all the way through to under 23s, staff and parents. I absolutely love the connection with the players like I did when I was coaching. Love the connection with the parents that I can, influence, because being a parent of a professional footballer, that's what you can do. They're just starting their journey. And I love the whole aspect of talking about racism. And that may sound strange, but to a group who are open-minded, and to a group that want to learn, and to a group that challenge me as well. So when it's that kind of conversation, a two-way conversation, there's nothing better. The conversations where you're banging your head against a brick wall and know that you're not helping, the person on the other end doesn't want to be educated, doesn't want to understand difference and color of skin and stuff like that. That's the battle. I also work on the mentoring program, which is called Raise Your Game. And that allows me to support people who want to work in the game. Anything apart from, I can't give anybody a contract to go and play on the pitch, but I definitely can put them in touch with people that are working within the industry that may enable them to get jobs. And again, it's predominantly for young people, predominantly for people from an underrepresented group, but not, exclusive of anybody. And then it's the crap stuff. The crap stuff is, what we've seen around the world on football pitches, which is the racial abuse, or the discrimination against players, against fans, on social media, online. And the reason why that's wearing, and the thing that makes me tired and makes me feel that I'm not having an influence, or makes me feel that actually my words mean nothing, is because we've not moved on. We've not moved on. We've said the same things over and over and over again. I'll do an interview and I'll criticize the industry, and the industry just says, here he goes talking again, criticizing us. The industry never turns around and looks at itself in the mirror. The industry doesn't really say, and I'm not saying that it doesn't, it does, but it doesn't do it at the top level. The industry doesn't question itself. Why have we got so much lack of representation? I know we'll decide to do something at the lower level or the middle level, but we won't touch management. We won't touch the decision makers. We won't touch the people that put the policies in. We won't touch the people who should be driving change, but they're not driving change. And that for me is a hierarchical thing that actually they don't see it. They don't want that change, and that's the battle. That's the one, the ones where players have been victimized on the first game of the season, which is in August. And we're now in I can't remember the month, June, and there's still no resolution to their story. So they have had to live with the victimization of being racially abused for nearly a year now, with no end goal to their story, and it's those things, because I hear the stories. I see the crap that's written on social media. I witness the negativity towards me as a black man standing up and talking in the manner that I do, and expressing myself about the industry and what it needs to do to change. And there's a few like me. There's not many, but there's a few like me that will always take that stand and go, we're not having this anymore. But absolutely, our voices are doused. Our voices are listened to, but not actioned on. So I'm fed up of talking now. I just want to see action. Because I've done the talking. If anyone wants to do their research, they can see the points I've made. They can appreciate and understand where I'm coming from. It's now down to those big industry figures to apply the action to the conversation. And as yet, we've never done it in football, not successfully, whether it's FIFA, whether it's UEFA, whether we dip back into the English football leagues and the FA. None of them have ever done it successfully right. So we may be in a moment of change now because of everything that's going on, obviously with Black Lives Matters and what's happened in the USA and now around the globe in terms of protests. But I always look at it with caution, because I've been here before, and listen, I've gone from the highs of talking about the education and very much the mentoring side of it, to what absolutely are the lows, and That's why the job is so different. That's why I bang my head against the wall sometimes, and you can see the dents in my head for that. That's why I laud the people that do great work in this industry, and I don't care what background they're from because they understand it from all different perspectives. But that's why I'll always call out the people that can actually influence the game and maybe are sitting back and not doing it enough.
Troy, you should be loaded. You're creating an absolute massive legacy. And I'll tell you why, because I said this to you in a text message once, just before. I'm 53 years old. My stepfather from the West Indies brought up four children, and they've had multiple foster children all their lives. They're now in their 70s. He brought me up to have the type of character and person that I am today, which I can't thank him enough. I would lay down my life for him in a heartbeat. I'm 53, as I said. I came from Eastern St. Paul's in Bristol. It was a predominantly black area, and there was always going to be troubles. But racism back then was totally different to where it is now, and it's because of people like yourself that has made that difference. Because my kids, I've got four children, three sons, one daughter. I've got four grandchildren, and racism's totally different to them now. It's not allowed. It's not something that should be accepted. So, and why, which is good having you on the show. And I know that you said I'm tired. I'm kind of, it's just keep going. There's a spirit that will keep you going without a shadow of a doubt, because what you're doing for others is immense. And a question that I want to ask you is, did you ever realize when you first started this that you would be dealing with the biggest people in football right now?
To be honest, no, Steve. I didn't know when I joined Kick It Out, I didn't know what the journey was going to be, if you wanted me to be totally honest. Married to that, I was still doing my coaching within the non-league circles. And I was having my enjoyment with my own academy. So, I literally had no time to think. It was 9 to 5, or well, it's never a 9 to 5 at Kick It Out, I'll tell you that much. But also develop, weekends of my football, non-league, and then my academy stuff. Then bit by bit, everything had to stop, because obviously my work increased and I became more prominent, and the other things that I couldn't dedicate myself to had to stop. Aligned with Andrews's career, my son growing, and absolutely not wanting to miss one game of football that he was playing in. So my time, that was a time that I had to share, and the excitement and the whatever it is, that the feelings that everyone get when they watch their own children perform, and that performing doesn't have to be on a football pitch, it could be anywhere, so that was my dedicated time. But the job is all encompassing. It honestly, I never thought I'd be in a position to challenge people. I never thought I'd do it right, to be totally honest. But I've always been a kind of a leader. I've captained my teams. I've been a manager from a young age. I've started my own academy. So, I've got people that I'm trying to inspire. So I've always been that kind of person. But I never thought it would flourish in this manner. And when I say flourish, remember the difficulties that I'm dealing with. But I have to respect the things that people say to me, and they say to me about who I am and my message, and how I'm diligent, and the hard work that I'm doing, and how I'm challenging. So I'm using other people's words rather than mine, in the manner that which I am able to take phone calls from the Premier League, or ring up the Premier League, the FA, and challenge them, and also develop good friendships within there. I'm not saying that it's all doom and gloom, and I have to be grateful to the Premier League, because the two programs that I've told you about in regards to the education and the mentoring, they fund those programs. So without them, I actually don't do 2/3 of my work, so, and then it would all just be the day-to-day of banging my head against a brick wall. So in answer to your question, no, I never thought I would be, but you know what? I've taken on the mantle, and I'm very happy to be the voice of many who have never had a voice before. And now in this period of time, it's just great to see so many people sharing the same message and around me, supporting, because one thing I'll tell you, you can't do this journey alone. You can't do this work in football, in challenging racism and discrimination alone. And that's where Steve came into it so much for me, in terms of giving me an outlet, giving me something to enjoy rather than the day-to-day. But like I said, I've grown so many great friendships and shown so many great allies, and and people who absolutely keep me buzzing. And I think that's what I always take when the times are really difficult.
I know that, and we've touched on it briefly about the racism, but and I tried not to touch on it too much because of the work that you're doing is unbelievable, and everybody's got an opinion, and I know it must be tiring. And do you get to a stage where you go, you know what, this is just too much for me?
Yes, on a couple of occasions. I mean, listen, I'm the go-to person within football whenever there's a racist incident. So if you think of how many racist incidents there's been this season alone, that's tiring within itself. You know what I mean? And it's demanding. I've been criticised, and by the way, I take all criticism on board, and hold my hand up, because if someone feels that I haven't done something, then I have to accept what they're saying. You know, we had a situation this season where in the English Football Championship where the Leeds United goalkeeper Casilla racially abused Charlton centre forward Jonathan Lecco. And Jonathan felt that he got no support from Kick It Out. He went through a process that was 6 months long. He had an injury during that period of time as well. I can imagine his thought process and how he felt, but he felt that we let him down. Now, I've got another story to that, but ultimately I'm going to listen to what's been said, you know, and absolutely take the criticism on the head, because I know when my team was racially abused, I know what they went through, you know, so I've experienced it. I've felt it. I've had people that are with me that have had to experience it and look at me to challenge it. So, the tiring part is the repetition. I say the same things over and over and over again because nothing changes. I highlight certain situations that people don't even know about, you know, we didn't know that. And I said, well, yeah, well, you know, if you work in it the way that I do, you would know, you know, and I don't know. I often get to a stage where I think to myself, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I do have moments where it takes over my whole thought process, and it's not quite draining. It's very draining. It's very draining, and it's very emotional. Have I cried over football? I'm going to be honest with you now. I have. I've shut myself in a room and emotionally just let it all out, because I feel that I'm not, and I feel that I'm not influencing enough, or I feel that I'm not getting the support from within or outside enough. And that's a hard thing to accept, because you know what us men are like. We're all right, emotion around your family and whatever else, and no one has to see that. But I've emotionally broken down because of this game. And I don't have to tell anyone that. I'm not doing it for people to pat me on the back and say, are you all right? I'm doing it because that's the impact of the things that I'm dealing with. And that's the impact of my repetitive words and actions and stuff. And when people see this, they might see me as weak. But honestly, I throw everything that I have into it, Steve. And sometimes it's at the detriment of my family, to be totally honest, because I feel that I need to be making that change. I've got to be honest that when my grandchildren came along, which was only 3-4 years ago, and I now have, like you, 4 beautiful grandchildren, priorities changed a little bit. The level of work didn't, but my priorities changed, because I then realised that the times that I didn't spend with my own children, because I was all consumed in football, I wanted to spend as much as I could with my grandchildren. So, listen, this game's I can't explain enough what a roller coaster it is, and the fact that I've told you that I've emotionally broken down, you know, is enough to hopefully let everyone have a little insight into what it does as well.
You are an inspiration. I'm telling you that now. And the honestly, you've got my number. I'm always there. We've only just recently been in contact with it. You are an absolute legend. And one of those things that I always say to people, and you are definitely one of those, is that we've all got the potential of being angels. And hear me out on this one. We've all got, everybody, one of us has got an angel with them. Or we've got the potential of being an angel. It's just that we don't sometimes realize the ability that we have got. And where I talk to so many different people, and they see somebody with a little bit like Gerald, somebody seeing something in Gerald, seeing something in there's a lady called Amal. She was a lady basketball captain for Qatar. Even Mariam Farid. They're all kind of people that have got they've been spotted by somebody and they've been then pushed in a different direction and their life's changed. We all need those people, and you're one of them. You're one of them that is there. And yeah, we are self-critical because we're in a position where we have to we have to be self-critical because we want to get better too, because we want to offer more. And that's the thing. And please don't stop this. You're doing an amazing job. Whether your priorities change in your family and all those type of things, that's what makes you. That's what makes the difference. And I'm gonna come off this subject slightly now because I am gonna go on to your family side of things, and we will slightly talk about Andros because I saw a video of you where you were describing the screamer and the absolute screamer he scored at Manchester United. Not Manchester United, sorry, Manchester United. Oh my God, I watched that one too. And I was I watched the video first and then I watched the goal, and you must have gone mental because you couldn't see it. Please tell the story.
Steve, when anyone outside the top six that goes to a club, the champions and whatever, you don't go there in hope. Well, you do. You go there in the hope that the score is not as big and embarrassing and you haven't made the, 450-mile trip for nothing, Last two times we'd gone there previously, we'd lost 5-0 both times. So we're going there just as long as it's free, we're all right. That's an improvement on the year before. So to go there, we were 1-0 down. We just scored to make it 1-1. This is the first half. And then Palace have got this free kick. And you're in anticipation because now we're on level pegging. We've scored at the Etihad, And from my position, and this time I was on a lower level. Normally, when I've gone Man City, I'm on a higher level. I can see everything. So the 10 goals that Man City scored against us, I saw them all, This time for some reason, we were on a lower level. So you could see down the other end, but it was very, very hard to make everything out, But obviously my focus is always on Andrew. So, if you put 50 people in on the pitch, I'll notice where he is, And a free kick came in and I watched the ball go up and it's okay. And we've missed it. And then the ball came out, we've missed it. And I saw the ball come out towards Andros. And I've seen him step to it. And I just thought, right, okay. And then I saw him run away. Now I was calculating that he was very quickly, about 20 yards out, And I'm thinking, God, how did he score? What, did it take a deflection? Did it this? And I saw the net ripple within moments. And I just thought, brilliant. But the fans, particularly the ones up there that saw it, were going absolutely mad. You go mad anyway because you're winning 2-1 at Man City. But then all of a sudden, someone's jumped on the back of me. I'm getting punched. And when I say punch, I don't mean I just mean just because of the joy of people. There's people going, did you see that? And I'm going, I didn't really see it. I don't know. I know he scored, so I'm happy anyway. We're jumping up and down. So I'm trying to get a signal. It was not long before half time. I'm trying to get a signal on my phone so I can get onto Twitter, which obviously is the first base of all information, to try and see the goal. And the video kept running until the point of contact, and then it would stop. So I couldn't watch it properly. So everyone's going, "What a goal! What a..." And I'm like, yeah, brilliant. I'm trying to enjoy it with them, without really enjoying it as such. But to be fair, anytime he scores, it's just unbelievable anyway. Then I finally got a signal. I don't know when I think it was just after half time. I was like, oh my God. But the second half had started, Steve. So we've gone back to being nervous because we're 2-1 up and we think, don't give this. And there were people around saying, I don't care if we lose now. I don't care. We can lose. It doesn't matter. We've scored the greatest goal ever. Then we've done a silly thing and went 3-1 up. And Andros was involved in that as well. It was a cross from the right-hand side. He headed it and it hit the post. And in some ways, Andros doesn't head the ball. So it actually would have been a better goal from 4 yards out than the one that he hit from 30 yards out. But we got a penalty from it. We've scored. We're now in dreamland. We are absolutely over the moon. We're 3-1 up, half an hour to go at the Etihad. My daughter can't watch the game. She's got her back turned to the pitch. I'm going, turn round. No, I can't watch. We're going to give it away. I can't. Turn round and what? No. Anyway, I think Man City scored. Kevin De Bruyne scored with about 4 minutes to go and 5 minutes stoppage time. Honestly, the 9-10 minutes that is the longest 9-10 minutes ever in the world. And then when the final whistle went, and my focus is always on Andros near the final whistle, and he was near the ball, and he just sunk to his knees. And it's kind of the thing that I think we all wanted to do. Do you know what I mean? We've actually done it. And then you could start recalling the goal again. You know, you all of a sudden now the victory, and you start recalling. And honestly, Steve, I've watched it 2,055 times because I'm keeping a counter, and I'll watch it another 2 million. I mean, to be fair, he scores spectacular goals. It's one of, and the week before, 2 weeks before, he'd scored an absolute cracker at home against Burnley. Absolute cracker. So both goals were in goal of the month, and he finished first and second with the 2 goals. But just being there, just, you know, being in the stadium, being all right, not seeing it in the way that I wanted to see it, but just being in the stadium and you know, feeling the whole. Honestly, football is just absolute different thing, you know. And obviously, I've got an emotional connection to it as well, and that's probably why my heart probably is older than what I am, you know. But it's just an amazing thing. There's been many significant moments watching Andros, and you know, scoring a goal on his England debut, what I was right in front of, and I saw all of it, and I captured the celebration. Scoring on his Tottenham debut, you know, we're fans of Spurs. Those things, if you ask me, Steve, I could walk you through all of them because they
Yeah.
stay with you, you know. So yeah, that Man City one was just a thing of beauty, but something that actually I didn't really see properly. So, you know, I take all the glory through watching it over and over again.
I knew that what the result was going to be. I knew he was going to score. But even when the ball came out and he was going to volley it, I thought to myself, he's never going to score from that, surely. And he's volley it. It was a treat. It was a treat to watch, and he must be what you've done for him as well to be able to go to those games. I can remember back to people coming to my games, like family, and it made so much. It just did. So that must be a magnificent thing from
Steve,
his dad to
let
come.
me let me just say, and we go as a family, but let me just say, it's everything that I didn't have as I was growing. You know, the game that I loved, the game that I wanted to, you know, achieve in, the game that I wanted to be the professional footballer in. I mean, my dad left us at a very young age. My mum was working all the hours under the sun. They never, ever watched me play football. Never. And I think if there's anything that would have, I can't say it for gospel, but just having your family there, looking to the touchline, you know, knowing that the ones that you love are watching you play the game that you love is a massive boost for any individual. And we've always been part of our children's journey, you know, because I think it's really important to know that they've got a safe pair of hands and eyes watching. I can't even express it more than enough, but it's just a safe pair of hands and eyes, you know.
And you just don't give that safe pair of hands to your family. You're giving it to everybody, and that's magnificent. We're gonna finish on a subject that I just wanted to get your opinion before we finish because it's gone so quickly, right? I can't believe it's gone so quick.
Sorry, I've
But
talked too much. Sorry.
oh, you're brilliant. Honestly, you're brilliant, and what an inspiration, and it's brilliant. What do you think about this football now behind closed doors? I had an interview or a press release with La Liga. I got to Mandieta. I was asking questions to Mandieta,
Okay.
which was I couldn't believe myself. I had to pinch myself all the time. Um, but what do you think about this football now behind doors and what they're doing with the speakers and the fans and the chants?
Steve, I was negative before, you know, because the fans are the essence of the game, you know. And you'll ask any player, and, you know, playing football without fans is going to be an unbelievable experience, you know, and not in a positive, to be totally honest. And I was critical before, but you know what? We're in unprecedented times. You know, we're in times that actually over here in England we've lost 40,000 lives. You know, so nothing is more important than those lives. I didn't think we should be returning to football until we got to a stage when there was zero lives lost anymore. You know, but they are. They're out there. They've got to get on with it. I'm not a fan, but it doesn't matter what I think. Mine is just a personal opinion. And I haven't watched any football. You know, the German league's been back on, hasn't it? And I haven't watched the German league. But then someone said to me, listen to the crowd noise. It makes the experience so much better. So I switched over for 2 minutes, listened to a bit of crowd noise. It actually did make the experience so much better. And nothing's ever going to replicate, you know, because football is a very, very emotional game. and the fans play their essence in that emotion, you know. And you know, the reason you score a goal and run over to your fans is because you want them to appreciate the goal, and you want them to share in that moment, you know. So running over to cardboard cutouts is never going to be the same. But it's what we're going to have to do. It's a new norm, you know, for I don't know how long. I don't think until 2021, to be honest. But we're just going to have to put up with it, and hopefully everyone stays safe that has to go into a stadium, the players, the staff, the media, and they can put on a spectacle that us fans will enjoy.
Troy, it's been an absolute pleasure and an honour having you on the show. I can't wait to show you hospitality in 2022. And please,
yes.
When you come over, I will show you all the hospitality I can offer. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you so much for coming on. You shared with us some stuff today that was fantastic for me, I don't want to say fantastic, but yeah, quite touching, really touching, and it brings back all memories in my mind. So thank you very much for sharing. It was an absolute privilege.
Pleasure from my end, Stephen. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it, and hopefully I can be an inspiration to a new set of people now, you know, right across the globe. So really appreciate that.
Next one is your friend Jurgen Klopp. I've seen you going on a few times with him now. Let's go and tell him I'm a good guy, okay? Liverpool here is just one of the biggest teams for supporters-wise. It's huge here.
They're an amazing football club behind the scenes. They had a reputation before. You know, Luis Suarez back in 2011, and the support of Luis Suarez after a racial incident. But the owners, the fans, the people, Jurgen, the players, they're on message, you know, and they're trying to change the past and create a brighter future, you know, for that football club. And when they finally do clinch that trophy, you know, for the first time in 30 years, and I know it won't be the same, but it'll be an unbelievable feeling. And I'd like to think now that I played a small part in that by giving Jurgen the boost to make sure that they go and do it, you know. But yeah, no, unbelievable football club, I've got to be honest. And I'm not a Liverpool fan, you know, but just having the people in there, some connects I've got in there now, and hearing what they're doing, you know, they deserve everything they get, that football club.
Listen, I'm not a Crystal Palace fan, but I'll be watching them next time. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Absolute pleasure, Steve. Listen,
I want to know when he scores a screamer again. It was a pleasure to watch. Good on you. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Cheers, Steve. Take care. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Everybody, I hope you enjoyed the show today. It's been amazing with Troy. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye for now.